everybody, and welcome to my channel Humblehus. Today I will show you how to make this pretty and simple bonnet for a newborn. Now in my last video I made a blanket for my nephew who hasn't been born yet, and since I have some yarn left over I will also make a bonnet for him. These are the items that you will need. Yarn, I'm using the Scarfie by Lion brand. It is a bulky 5, recommended hook size 6.5 millimeters. 78% acrylic and 22% wool. Your hook, scissors, yarn needle, and stitch markers. Let's start off by making a magic ring. Now I try to go as slow as possible so that everyone can follow along. The end of the yarn, you have to put it in front of your fingers, and then grab the other side and cross it over. Now you're going to insert your hook between those yarns and then pull this through and twist. Now take this into your hands. A little loop. Do not let go of this part. Now we will chain 2. 1 and 2. This chain of 2 does not count. Now we need 12 double crochets into this ring. You yarn over into the ring, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. You have to be careful not to pull too much on this, it can slip out. Just leave it loosely around your hands. This was your first double crochet and we need 12 of these. For round number 2, this was that first double crochet that we have. So you want to work a double crochet into that stitch. You will add your stitch marker right here. That way you know that's your first one, and then into that same stitch that you just went into, you will do another double crochet. This is basically an increase. It means 2 stitches into that same stitch. And we want to do that all the way around until we have a total of 24 double crochets. Keep repeating that until you get to the stitch marker. Now for round number 3, you will remove the stitch marker and do a double crochet in there. Add your stitch marker. Now we will double crochet into that same stitch. The next stitch though will only be 1 double crochet, no increase. And the next one will be an increase, the next stitch. So 2 into that same stitch. The pattern will be 1 increase, 1 double crochet, 1 increase, 1 double crochet. At the end, you shall have 36 double crochets when you reach the stitch marker. For round number 4, you want to again take out your stitch marker, do a double crochet into that stitch, add your stitch marker, do another double crochet into that same stitch. So this is an increase. Into the next 2 stitches you will do 1 double crochet, 1 into each stitch. Now we do an increase again. Then over the next 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into each stitch. Repeat that pattern. At the end of this round, you should have 48 double crochets. Once I have my 48 double crochets, this should measure about 5 inches. Now take off your stitch marker. We will make a slip stitch right there. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and that same loop, pull it through the loop that is on your hook. Now, if you notice here, I'm just going to add the stitch marker so that you see it once I explain it to you. So that was that slip stitch. Now you're going to chain 1 and do a single crochet into that same stitch. So these look like there's 3 stitches. We need to count back 6 stitches, not counting this. That's why it's useful to put the stitch marker. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On this 6th one, you will add your stitch marker. And now you can add this stitch marker back into that spot so that you know you have the correct amount of stitches going back. Okay, now we skip this first stitch, do 3 single crochets into this same stitch. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. 3 of those into the same stitch. Now we skip 2 stitches and do the same. 3 single crochets into the same stitch. Skip these 2 and then 3 single crochets. Repeat that pattern until you get to your stitch marker. You will know if you counted correctly when you have your 3 single crochet stitches into the stitch right before the stitch marker. We are going to skip this stitch, so take out your stitch marker. Just the same way that we skipped a stitch over here, we will skip this one and do a single crochet into that next stitch. Now turn your work, chain 1 and do a single crochet into that same stitch. And this is where you want to add your stitch marker, right there. This next row will consist of single crochets all the way until you get to your other stitch marker. You don't need to skip anything, just single crochet all the way. Go into every stitch. When you're at your stitch marker, you will do your single crochet into that stitch. You turn your work, chain 1 and single crochet again into that same stitch. Add your stitch marker. For this round, instead of working our single crochets through both loops that you see here on every stitch, we will only go through this front one and do our regular single crochet. Insert your hook only through one of the loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We will do this all the way until we get to our stitch marker. Finish with your single crochet, turn your work, chain 1 and do your single crochet into that same stitch. Add your stitch marker. This is what it should look like. This is the row where we will do our bobbles. So single crochet into the next 5 stitches. Now comes the first bobble. Insert your hook and start your first single crochet. And then instead of pulling through both loops, you will only pull through one. Keep those 2 loops on your hook, insert it again, pull up a loop, pull up another loop through that first loop only. There's 3 loops. Now do that again. Pull up a loop and then pull up a loop only through the first one. 1, 2, 3. You have 4 loops on your hook. Now again, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through that first loop only, 5 loops on your hook, and now one more time. You have 6 loops on your hook, 5 single crochets, and now yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, and then continue with your regular single crochet into that next stitch. As usual, and you basically put bobble towards the outside. So this was your first stitch, your first single crochet after the bobble. Do 4 more, so a total of 5. Now comes the second bobble. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop, insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up through 1 loop, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that first loop. You have 5 loops on your hook and you need 1 more loop on your hook. So you always need to have 6 loops on your hook. There you go. Now yarn over and pull through all 6. And then single crochet into that next stitch as usual. Continue that same pattern. After that last bobble, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets. And before I reach my stitch marker, I would still have 1 stitch where I could fit in 1 more bobble. But to make it look a little bit more even, we are not going to do that. So I'm simply going to do a single crochet into this stitch and then obviously finish off as usual with my single crochet, turn my work, chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch. Add my stitch marker and then single crochet all the way back. When you get to these bobbles, you single crochet as usual. You will see that stitch. Just make sure you go into every stitch. Finish this round with your single crochet. Turn your work, chain 1 and single crochet into that same stitch. Add your stitch marker. This next round will also be single crochets all the way until you get to your stitch marker. Once you have turned and chained 1, did your single crochet into that same stitch. We will do the same as in this round back here, where we only single crochet into this front loop. You're going to do that all the way until you get to your stitch marker. When you get to the stitch marker, go through both loops. Now turn your work, chain 1 and single crochet into the same stitch. Add your stitch marker. Begin by doing single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Now we will do the bobble. Then you will single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then do the bobble again and go all the way to your stitch marker. When you've reached the last bobble, you will have 3 single crochets left before the stitch marker. So simply single crochet into all 3 and also the one with the stitch marker. So I did my last bobble, then I had 3 single crochets plus that 4th one where the stitch marker was. I turned my work, chained 1, single crocheted into the same stitch, and now for the next 2 rounds will be single crochets only. So I will meet you back here again. 2 rounds of single crochet done. Now single crochet into this one with the stitch marker, turn your work, chain 1, then 1 single crochet, add your stitch marker. We're going to work into the front loop again only, but we will not do single crochets. We will do slip stitches because we are going to end with this round. So insert your hook through that front part and then yarn over, pull up a loop, and that same loop pull it through the one that's on your hook. Once again, only through the front, yarn over, pull through, pull through. Repeat until you get to your stitch marker. Of course, into the stitch where the stitch marker is, we will do our regular single crochet through both loops. From your stitch marker, you will chain 30. On our way back, instead of inserting your hook through this, you're going to twist the chains and single crochet into these back loops. You see that? So these would normally be the front ones, but you twist and you go through this one right there. I am back at the top where the stitch marker was, and so this is the little front of the bonnet, and now we're going to single crochet all around this bottom part. Just try to go into as many stitches as you can. You will see where the spaces are. I'm now at the other side, so I went all along this bottom part of the bonnet, and then here's my stitch with the stitch marker. So I will do my last stitch in there, my single crochet, and just put a stitch marker again just to remind myself where I ended, and now single, and now chain 30 again. When you get to the bottom, just come back the same way that you did with the other side. I finished my chain on this side. Now with this stitch where the stitch marker is, I will finish off by doing a slip stitch, taking out my stitch marker. Now we cut off the yarn. I like to pull it through, make it as tight as possible. Take your yarn needle and thread this in. I like to just go through this bottom part, kind of like up and down, and then form a little loop going back. Do the same with the yarn that's inside. And that is it. You're done with your bonnet. I'm sure it looks fantastic. It's very unfortunate that I don't have anybody to model it, but I still hope you love it. This is a great present for any expecting moms. I appreciate you guys being here. Please subscribe. Also, if you're on Instagram, follow me at Humblehus. Tag me with your work. This is Humblehus. Bye!